Voyeurism and exhibitionism. Are you into one or both of these common kinks? Most of us have had experiences with one form or another of these fetishes, and I wanted to make this video because although it isn't uncommon to be turned on by these things, the ethics around engaging with them can be a little murky. In fact, you probably are already playing with voyeurism and exhibitionism even though you don't realize it. You might be already getting your rocks off to these right now, and you may not even know it. If that's you, or if it's something that you just want to experiment with, I promise that there are ways to turn up the hotness factor to an 11, which I'm going to share in just a moment. Longtime listeners will know that I encourage authentic and unbridled sexual expression till the cows come home. But as with all things, consent is key. And this is where these specific kinks can be a little confusing for some people. But fear not. If you are into this stuff, you definitely do not have to be a peeping Tom or risk being arrested for indecent exposure just to get your rocks off. I'm Caitlin V, your sex and relationship coach, and in this video, I'm gonna break down the ethics around voyeurism and exhibitionism, as well as give you my top 5 tips for exactly how you can engage with these practices in a hot and ethical way. Because yes, you can get all of the thrill without risking anybody's boundaries or violating the law. Okay, so first things first, what are exhibitionism and voyeurism? In short, voyeurism is experiencing arousal by watching other people engaged in some sort of sexual act. So you're voyeur, voy probably from like the French, I don't know. This could include both consensual and non-consensual acts and ranges from watching porn to listening to your neighbors to watching people with their permission have sex at a sex club. Exhibitionism, on the other hand, is like the complementary fetish. It is arousal from other people watching and witnessing you in a sexual way. So this could range from like sending nudes to entering a wet t-shirt contest to having sex in public to walking around naked in front of your partner. So you can see already that most people have some kind of experience. Like just in the course of being a sexually active human being, you've probably like come across someone else being sexual in some way or another. I mean, even porn in a sense is sort of voyeuristic because you're watching other people have sex. And if you are at all into doing things in a way that may get you caught or brings you around other people without them necessarily knowing what's going on, you've probably had some experience with exhibitionism. Now, these are really common, which is why it's important for us to talk about it. But what's not as common is a conversation about how to do it right, like how to do it in a way where everybody involved comes away better for it, not worse. Let's talk about how to get it right. Number 1 of 5, understand consent. When it comes to sex, most ethical questions can often be solved by simply considering whether or not there is consent, and voyeurism and exhibitionism are no different. Basically, you just have to make sure that everyone being watched or watching has given consent. Everyone. If you are not sure, you can always keep the Fry's method in mind around consent. Consent has to be freely given, retractable, informed, enthusiastic, and specific. Fries. Basically, this means, for example, that no, it's not okay for you to flash your junk on a subway because you haven't received consent from everyone on the subway who will be seeing it. And if there isn't consent, then it is a violation. And the same goes for watching people have sex or get undressed. Like, it's only okay when the undressing person is consenting to what's going on, which means that if someone doesn't fully close the curtains and you just like happen to be able to see them with your binoculars through the window, that's not consensual and you shouldn't do it. The thing about this particular kink is that it has the potential to make people feel really violated. Often that happens without us like even meaning to. The good news is that there are plenty of ways to engage with it that are fully consensual, and I'm gonna share all those in just a moment. But first, I want to address that some people are aroused by the non-consensual element of voyeurism and exhibitionism. And if that is the case for you, then this next tip is gonna be especially helpful. Number 2 of 5, fantasize away. The cool thing about fantasies is that they are not subject to ethics. Maybe you like to fantasize about touching yourself in your backyard in full view of your hot neighbor, or catching your crush in the gym locker room and having a great time in between the locker stacks. I spend a lot of time fantasizing about locker rooms. Maybe you like something that's a little bit more extreme, but whatever the fantasy is, it is okay to be aroused by anything that you can come up with in your own mind. And there's so many things that we fantasize about in the heat of the moment that we would actually never want to partake in real life. And that is totally okay. Ethics only comes in when you're actually taking action on your fantasy in a way that affects other people. So if you want to rub one out to the thought of spying on someone having sex, like freaking go for it. Let your imagination run wild. But if you want to rub one out while watching someone have sex in real life, you got to get their consent. Now, even though fantasy is a free-for-all, if you find yourself fantasizing about things that are non-consensual, or you find yourself like really only able to get off on things that are non-consensual, definitely bring that up with a professional, because dealing with this issue early on and from a shame-free perspective, like there's nothing wrong with you. You just need to maybe get to the bottom of what's actually going on. What's actually triggering that arousal? What's actually hot to you about violating someone's consent? Is that it? Or is there something else, some other opportunity for healing there? And I honestly just don't recommend trying to do all that work by yourself. You need someone who can see you from outside of yourself in order to give you the feedback that you need to improve your situation. All right, number 3 of 5, get creative. There are plenty of ways to experience voyeuristic or exhibitionistic thrills without violating anyone or, like breaking the law. Especially when it comes to exhibitionism, there are plenty of ways to engage in sexual activities in ways that feel risky or feel public while still playing by the rules. For example, try getting it on in a friend's bathroom or a private secluded patio, somewhere where you're not actually at risk of people walking in, but there's still a feeling of novelty and the danger of getting caught. I recommend that you utilize those places that are both private, only surrounded by consenting adults that are familiar with you, or at least doing so in a way that you can reasonably guarantee that none of the adults who are familiar with you will be any the wiser, like the bathroom at a party. And of course, there are also ways to share your exhibitionistic side while getting consent. Like ask a partner if they're okay with receiving nudes or videos from you. Walk around naked at your house. Be conscious of the drapes and the curtains and the windows and all of that, but get freaky and naked while you're home alone. Show off that butt. Or you could always have sex on your property, but outside of your house, like in a car on your driveway, or like if you have a secluded background, somewhere where people will not actually be able to see you. You're not actually breaking the law, but you can still have a little bit of that thrill, that naughtiness, that kinkiness of like, ooh, we're not supposed to be out here, and oh my God, imagine, even though we both know no one's coming by. With a little bit of creativity, the good news is that you can totally enjoy these kinks responsibly. Here we go. Number 4 of 5, find your kink safe space. Good news, friends. There are a lot of places that are specifically designed for people to engage in these kinds of fantasies. And although the thought of them may be intimidating, they actually tend to be wonderfully safe, positively inclusive spaces. What am I referring to? I'm talking about your local sex club, your swingers bar, maybe even the orgy dome at Burning Man. The list goes on. There are even some resorts and clubs where you may be able to explore and unleash this part of yourself with a celebrating and consenting audience. The key to these spaces is, again, always being aware of the boundaries of the environment and the consent of all of the participants. For example, just because someone is at a sex club doesn't mean that they want to engage in the same kind of sexual stuff that you do. Even in these environments, perhaps especially in these environments, consent is mandatory. Having said that, rest assured that whatever your kink may be, there is a community out there that shares your preferences and would love to engage you in them. Just make sure to do the work to find your tribe. Which brings me to number 5, enroll others. This might sound obvious, but if you want to watch or be watched, then find someone to watch or watch you. These days, it is even easier than ever to find open-minded playmates. There are apps like Field and sites like FetLife that are designed around openness to a variety of sexual preferences. But no matter who you are, if you're single or you're coupled, you can absolutely find someone out there who's interested in watching you or who's interested in having you watch. Remember, for every voyeur, there's an exhibitionist and vice versa. More than ever, people are embracing their sexuality and desires. They're subscribing to this YouTube channel. They're getting a little bit outside of their comfort zone and turning away from their vanilla sides. And with the internet, it is easier than ever to connect with each other. I love you, World Wide Web. There you have it, my 5 tips for ethically enjoying voyeurism and exhibitionism. Please let me know in the comments your tips, your advice, your personal experiences with these fetishes, and make sure you subscribe for even more content to help you on your journey towards your most fulfilled and authentic sex life. I'm Caitlin V. I'll see you here next week.